Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1246B, and today's date is April 4th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Deep State in Panic Mode, Creating Events to Distract from Their Activities. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with James Rickards. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you right to that interview. Or you can go to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there. You can play it right on the site. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video right on the site. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we know, Paul Ryan's healthcare bill, along with Trump, well, that didn't go anywhere the last time. We knew it wasn't going to go anywhere because it wasn't for the people. Actually, what they did was they took Obamacare, they rewrote it, put Paul Ryan's name on it, and said, hey, look, we have this fantastic thing. Instead of charging you a penalty tax from the government, the insurance companies were going to charge you a penalty. But was there any benefit to the people? No. And this is what these individuals in our government need to understand. They are working for the people. They're not working for the insurance company. They're not working for themselves. They're not working for a special interest group. They're working for the people. And if they don't give the people something that's incredible, people are not going to buy into it. People are going to look at it and say, all you're doing is taking money from me and penalizing me if I don't go along with your agenda. And this is what's happening. So they tried to push the health care bill in once again. They modified a couple things like granting waivers to states. But this is all ridiculous because all they're doing is taking what already exists and just changing it around a little bit and changing the name. And this is what they come up with after 7 years of complaining about it? This is ridiculous. They might as well just scrap the entire thing, get rid of Obamacare, and let the insurance companies compete until they can figure out what we need and how it's going to benefit the people. Get rid of the insurance companies. They shouldn't be involved in this because they're going to tell you what they want. Get the people together and make something that works for the people. And guess who's going to get hurt? Yes, the insurance companies. They're going to have to pay because, again, this is for the people, not for the insurance companies. Now we can see the whole entire scandal of the masking, unmasking, the spying. Well, it is really starting to heat up now. The deep state is very nervous about what's going on. And the individual that broke the story is Cernovich. And he is out there and he's saying that, well, he really didn't have to have a deep throat. He didn't need anything like that because his sources for the Susan Rice story were actually folks working at Bloomberg and the New York Times who revealed that both Eli Lake from Bloomberg and Maggie Haberman from the New York Times were sitting on the Susan Rice story in order to protect the Obama administration. Maggie Haberman had it. She will not run any articles that are critical of the Obama administration. Eli had it, and that's Eli Lake. He didn't want to run it, and Bloomberg didn't want to run it because it vindicates Trump's claim that he had been spied upon. And Eli Lake is a never-Trumper. Bloomberg was a never-Trump publication. I thought the corporate media, journalists, were supposed to be unbiased. They were supposed to investigate stories, and they were supposed to find out the truth. And it looks like, and we've known this for a very long time, let's not be foolish about this, the corporate media, well, they are controlled by the deep state. And now we have a lot of evidence that is coming out right now. And it's showing that Susan Rice most likely is the individual that unmasked the individuals in the Trump team. And Obama was spying on the Trump team. U.S. Attorney Joseph Gianova suggested that Rice specifically requested that the NSA provide her with detailed spreadsheets of intercepted phone calls with unmasked Trump associates. And what was produced by the intelligence community at the request of Ms. Rice were detailed spreadsheets of the intercepted phone calls, and the individuals were unmasked. And we could see right now that the Obama administration was utilizing the full force of the U.S. intelligence apparatus to take down a political adversary. And this is why Obama changed the rules at the last minute. So he had the ability to do all this. Now, CNN, the New York Times, the rest of the corporate media, you would think this would be front page news. But guess what? It isn't. They're still pushing the idea of Trump and Russia working together. Where I saw on the page of CNN, they were saying that where there's smoke, there's fire. Look at Russia, look at Trump. And we can see right now Don Lemon from CNN, he's saying that, hey, I'm just going to ignore this story. Now, when somebody says that who's in a news organization, who's supposed to be a journalist, this tells you something is very, very wrong. And they're trying to bury this. And they're out there trying to tell everyone that this story is fake. There's no evidence. But as a journalist, what is backing up their claims? Because we know right now that there's a paper trail. And Trump has the paper trail. We see that Senator Rand Paul said that Rice should testify under oath to address multiple reports she had unmasked the identities of Americans. And yes, this is what she should be doing. Now, think about all of this. All this is going on. Where is the FBI? Because right now, Trey Gowdy, during the hearing, said, was there a crime committed? Yes. These people that we know of, these 100 people, had the ability to unmask these individuals. So this is a crime. And there's penalties for that. Are you investigating? No. So the FBI is controlled by the deep state. I mean, they're telegraphing it. They're letting us know that this is what's happening. So the Obama administration most likely is involved in this. Of course. And we can see right now that Susan Rice responded to Trump's allegations, and she's saying that I didn't do anything wrong. Well, she did do certain things wrong. And she was on an interview with MSNBC, with Andrea Mitchell, and she was explaining how this all came about and how she has the ability to unmask, but this was all part of the intelligence gathering. And we know from Evelyn Farkas, we know from another Democrat that came forward, that they're all saying the same exact thing. Yes, they slip up and other people are just telling the truth, that Obama was spying one way or another on Trump and many other individuals. And she went on to say that I received those reports, as did other officials, and there were occasions when I would receive a report in which a U.S. person was referred to. Name not provided, just U.S. person. And sometimes in that context, in order to understand the importance in the report and to assess its significance, it was necessary to find out or request who that U.S. official was. Well, wait a minute. So she did unmask. Now, she just admitted it when she said this. Now, the question is, we need to take it to the next level, and there needs to be an investigation. And you would think Pelosi, Schiff, and all these other individuals would be out there saying there has to be an investigation because we have real evidence here. So she actually admitted that sometimes that, yes, she has to unmask these people. So she's saying that she did do this before. Now, the question is, did she unmask it during this period of time? And this is why there needs to be an investigation. This is why they need her to testify. So right now, the House Intelligence Panel has asked Susan Rice to testify, supposedly under oath. Now, the next question on everyone's lip is, will she plead the fifth? Now, we know right now that she said some damaging things during the interview, just like Evelyn Farkas. And we see right now that she will be called to testify. And we will know right away if she's hiding something, because we all know most likely she's going to plead the fifth. Now, if she does testify and she doesn't plead the fifth, well, they're going to get to the bottom of this, and this whole thing is going to be unraveling right in front of her eyes. So the question is, since the deep state realizes what's going on, that this truth is coming out one way or another, the corporate media can pretend and ignore it all they want, but what's happening right now is they're losing the fight on this one. And the deep state, they can't let this go any further. So what do? Well, they have a couple of options. They can get rid of Trump. They can assassinate him. That might be a little too early in the game, because people would scream and yell and say, okay, we knew this was coming. You did exactly what we thought. Or they can create events, which we are seeing right now. The terrorist attack in London, the terrorist attack in St. Petersburg, the chemical weapons attack in Syria. And we can see that to really distract this, they need a real good wag the dog type of distraction. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're coming up with something really big to distract from all of this, so this is completely dropped. Now, one way to do this is to collapse the economy and have a terrorist group or a country attack the United States, or make it look like they're attacking, because then this would bring the nation together. It would keep the White House completely busy. This would be off the radar. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like this. Now, Judicial Watch has been probing Obama. It's been probing Hillary, asking for documents under the Freedom of Information Act. And we see right now that Judicial Watch, well, they have obtained and released nearly 700 pages of Obama's IRS scandal documents that show officials used inappropriate political labels to screen applications from conservative tax-exempt organizations. The documents were made available following a Freedom of Information Act request filed by the Judicial Watch in 2015. And the request was made following a scandal in 2013 that revealed the U.S. Internal Revenue Service had selected political groups applying for tax-exempt status for intensive scrutiny based on their names or political themes. And of course, the emails were lost. This was with Lois Lerner. And we're starting to learn right now that, yes, this did happen. And out of the 695 pages of documents that were released by the IRS, 61% were withheld in their entirety. Now, once again, we can see that the walls are closing in on Obama. The walls are closing in on the deep state. And it is getting worse and worse as time goes on. We see with George Soros, well, we can see the Hungarian lawmakers out in Hungary. They do not like Soros whatsoever. The party out there approved a law that could force a university founded by George Soros, and we could see that they want him out of the country. And there were individuals that were protesting about this, but all these protesters were sponsored by Soros. This is how this man works. He goes out, he pays with his billions of dollars, and he pays certain individuals, protesters, to go out there to rile everyone up, and it looks like a natural movement when it really isn't. Out in North Korea, we see that South Korea is saying that North Korea, they hacked into their war plans, their master plan by South Korea, and they're saying that the North Koreans do have it now. Now, of course, we don't know this for sure. You know how difficult it is to find a state actor. And secondly, we know that North Korea at this point, well, they really didn't hack into Sony. They didn't hack into anything else. This has been created and it has been put out there by the intelligence agencies. We know from the Umbridge program, they have the ability to compile these codes, put in breadcrumbs into the code to make it look like that it's coming from a certain area. And any state actor that does attack, they're not doing it from their own IP address. That would just be absolutely ridiculous. We see Russia right now, they are deploying warplanes to eastern military districts in response to U.S. drills. They have MiG-31s, MiG-31BM interceptor jets that took part of their large-scale drills. And this is all being done because we can see what the United States government central bankers are doing. They are prepping for war. They have been prepping for war for many years now. This is why all military assets, troops have been moved into certain locations. And we can see right now they are pushing their agenda. We see Erdogan is out there. He's saying that he's planning a new operation since Euphrates Shield has ended. They're starting a new one right now. Now, there is a problem with this because Syria wants the ability to now say, yes, you can fight in Syria. Now you cannot fight in Syria. Before, Turkey just came in and did whatever they want. Now Russia and Syria are saying to Turkey, listen, you need to get the consensus from the Syrian government, from Assad, to go ahead and do what you're going to do. And most likely, I think Assad and Russia should be kicking out the United States, should be kicking out Turkey, and let them handle their own business in there. Why is the United States, the coalition forces, Turkey in there to fight terrorism? Because if we had the Islamic State, and we know this is all controlled by the United States government, intelligence agency, and the coalition forces, Mossad, MI6, But let's just use this as an example. If there was the Islamic State running around, let's say in the state of Texas or North Carolina, any place, would we allow Syria just to come in and say, hey, we're helping you out. We're just fighting the terrorists in this area? No, this would not be allowed. This would be called an invasion. And this is what the United States is doing with Syria right now. We see that U.S.-led forces killed more Syrian civilians than the Islamic State or Russia last month. Now, the number of civilian deaths from the U.S. airstrikes across the region soared when Russia scaled back its operation during that period. The Syrian Network for Human Rights found ISIS killed 119 civilians in Syria, including 19 children, 7 women. Russian forces believed might have killed around 224 civilians in the same month. The coalition forces, they have killed 260 civilians, including 70 children and 34 women. And in the same month, reports of civilian deaths from the U.S. airstrikes across Syria and Iraq soared to all-time highs. According to Air Wars, a British monitoring group, which found there were 1,472 casualties linked to U.S. airstrikes in March. And we know the United States government, central bankers. We know the intelligence agencies, the deep state, the central bankers. They're not going after the Islamic State. They're going after the infrastructure. They're going after the people. This is how they work. We see the U.S. right now is modifying and expanding their air base near Raqqa. Now, they built it. It was able to support a C-130. They had the landing strip. Now, they're modifying it. They're extending it because they want to bring in the C-17s. So they need a more hardened runway to support their weight and other aircraft, because they're flying in military assets, equipment, because we're looking at this huge battle that's going to be going on in Syria. Remember, they're getting prepared and they need a lot of troops in there to separate Syria. Now, this, again, is against international law. This is an invasion. And we can see right now, this is what they're pushing right now. Now, out in Russia, we see they identified one of the individuals that set off a bomb in St. Petersburg. And we can see right now that the coverage on the bombing in St. Petersburg was really nothing in the corporate media. I mean, look what happened in Westminster. It was all over the front pages. People are saying, I'm with you. When it happens in Russia, absolutely nothing. I mean, the NCAA basketball championship got more coverage than what happened in St. Petersburg. So we can see there is a double standard going on right now. But that individual, he was a 22-year-old Kyrgyzstan individual, and his name is, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Akbarzhan Dizhalavov, and he is one of the individuals they're saying that detonated one of these bombs. Now, I wouldn't be surprised later on if there's information that shows that this individual was in contact with intelligence agencies, because we see right now the corporate media is out there and they're using the word false flag, but they're saying that Putin created this false flag to take away from the protests. Well, no, I don't think that's what happened. I think the intel agencies, the deep state, the central banker, they're sending Putin a message, because in St. Petersburg, when this went off, Putin was actually visiting the area. So this was a message that was sent to Putin. And if we're going to say it's the Islamic State, we know who the Islamic State is. It's the United States, it's Israel, it's the UK, it's France, it's all of these countries. So they're sending Putin a message. Stop what you're doing, back off, or more things are going to happen. Now, Trump, they decided to respond to the Syrian gas attack in Syria. And here we go again, everyone, where they're saying that Assad is using sarin gas. Now, Trump is blaming this on Obama. He's saying that this is all from what has happened in the past, and this is what we're seeing today. Well, someone needs to bring Trump up to speed of what's really going on in Syria. We understand that all the sarin gas was removed from Syria, and at this point, with Russia there, with Syria, they have the upper hand. They're pushing the Islamic State back. Why would they resort to sarin gas? Does that benefit his cause? Who does it benefit if they report a sarin gas attack? The losers, the Islamic State, the United States government, central bankers, MI6, Mossad, the coalition forces. And when we look at this sarin gas attack, which reportedly was taking place in rebel-held Idlib, and Russia was not flying any planes there. Syria was not flying any planes there. They're saying at least 58 people, well, they were hit with it. Now, what's very interesting when you look at all these pictures, it shows activists and members of the volunteer white helmets. Right there, you know right off the bat that this is a false flag. They're helping these individuals who got hurt with sarin gas. And you have to remember, within seconds of exposure to sarin gas, the effects of gas begins to target the muscle, the nervous system, and there is an almost immediate release of the bowels and the bladder, and vomiting is induced. When you look at the pictures, once again, this is where they seem to always mess up. Yes, you have people with masks, but you have people with no gloves on who are touching these individuals. Why would they do that? That raises some questions. It's also the white helmets, which we know is part of Al-Qaeda, which is funded by the United States. And then we have the doctor out there who's saying that this is a sarin gas, and with so many people rushing to the hospital, he had time to take videos of what was going on. Meanwhile, when you look at these pictures, all of a sudden, these flatbedded trucks arrived out of nowhere, ready to bring the bodies wherever they needed to go. We had people with hoses, and these individuals had no masks, no gloves, nothing. And this is an area where they arrived in minutes, which was just hit by sarin gas. Why don't they have protective gear on? Another picture shows a truck in a cave with a hose attached to it where they can spray water. I mean, it just seems very convenient where this is being staged. And again, the individual holding the hose has no protective gear on while dealing with a sarin gas attack. So something is wrong here. And we could see already with McCain, with Graham, saying that we need to go after Russia, we need to go after Assad. Look what they just did out there. We just had this major sarin gas attack. They're doing the same exact false flag they did in 2013. They're trying to do a repeat. And guess what? It doesn't look like it's working. Is Trump going to go along with this? Hopefully not. Because what we're seeing right now, it's completely made up by the corporate media, by the intel agencies, and they're trying to force the entire situation in Syria. They want a war. They want Assad. They want to separate Syria, and they're pushing for this as hard as they possibly can. Most likely, they're going to make a case of this is why we need to separate Syria from the Kurdish region from Syria, because we can't trust Assad. And we can see already that they are going to push and push and push, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see even more events as we move into the spring and into the summer. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.